Good evening, everybody. It is Steve with Real Progressives. This is Saturday night here, and I'm hoping everybody's having a great weekend. You know, I watch the news, and I've been paying a lot of attention to some of the undercurrents within the progressive movement, some of the power players that are out there trying to coax us this way and coax us that way. And one of the things that has jumped out at me, and this may be a non-starter for some, maybe some don't realize how important what I'm about to say is, but we, the progressive movement, the folks that are die-hard progressive, do not represent a plurality of the United States. We do not represent a majority of the United States. So naturally, because we are not the majority, the goal is to always get us to water down our desires and water down our demands, because after all, the ultimate prize is going to be gained by gaining 51%. Somehow or another, you've got to gain 50% point one or whatever, because it's that first past the post mindset, and quite frankly, the entire structure is based around first past the post. So in looking to build coalitions and looking to see where there's a soft spot or where there's a natural alliance or where there's potential and so forth, it's easy to start looking for combinations and looking for different fallbacks just in case your favorite candidate gets screwed and so forth. And I get it. I really do get it. And, you know, the pragmatic side of me is a project manager by trade, and I am always looking at contingency management. I'm always looking to assess risk. I'm always looking to make sure that I win in the end. And winning in the end sometimes is by 1 point. But at the end of the game, if you win, you've won. But that's not always the case when it comes down to our lives. Because our lives, unfortunately, we get one shot at this thing. And if, you know, we miss the cutoff on some opportunity or some program or something like that, and we're, you know, totally decimated by our own situation, but because of some, you know, arbitrary cutoff point of 100,000 or 90,000 or 125,000 in income, somebody who maybe is buried in debt ends up being on the outside looking into this silly bubble. This is the essence of small-minded liberal, neoliberal, scarcity bullshit, favoring corporatists, favoring the corporations that want to keep their profit margins fat, and they still want to throw a few bones at the people to say, see, I've got your back. But what we've got now is a situation with so many candidates running for the Democratic nomination. You've got a watered-down effect. And what you've done is you've flooded the market with a bunch of people, and it's like, unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that are not very smart. They're just ignorant. They're uninformed. They're unmotivated. They're unwilling to consider anyone else's situation in voting. They're only thinking about whether the person has a nice winning smile, whether their genetic plumbing is the same as theirs, and then they're okay with them, or whether their skin tone matches something that they would prefer, or whether their sexual preference matches what they would want. They don't look at the overall, how the poor are deeply affected, how the people that are right on the borderline are affected, how the people that have been sucked into neoliberal divorce. I mean, think about how many people are in that position that look good on paper until you look at their child support, or look good on paper until you realize that they have been run through the mud through layoffs and everything else, and they are steeped in debt. Many people have never recovered from the global financial crisis. People are desperate right now. People are underemployed. There's employment, but the pay sucks. The people are screwed still. They've got no fat to cut. So when you're talking about being pragmatic, and you're looking at healthcare, and you're looking at education, and you're looking at a Green New Deal, and you're looking at all these different things from a job guarantee perspective, from paid family and medical leave, from expanding Social Security, and actually giving the cost of living increases that should have gone with it, you end up looking around and you say, my God, there is so much to do, and there are so many people that are desperate. In order to meet the needs of the people, it's going to take someone with exceptional vision, exceptional understanding of the economic system, and exceptionally large view of what it means to serve the entire population, not just segments of the population that meet a certain demographic. Now, as a result of the vote blue mindset, unfortunately, there is a rush by a lot of them to what we call preemptive surrender. They're already talking about vote blue no matter who. They're always talking about don't tear down Democrats, don't do this, don't do that. But let me explain something to you. Policy is extremely important to everybody with a brain. If you don't have a brain, I can certainly understand why you would be a loser and say something like just vote blue. But policy truly matters. And that means the people that have crappy conservative policy should be called out for crappy conservative policy. To protect them is to hurt all those people I described in the beginning. That is a very privileged perspective, to tell people to tone it down and not eat other Democrats or not eat other quote-unquote so-called progressives. It's an extremely privileged position to take. Let me tell you, healthcare is an industry that I got to experience as a project manager during the days of the implementation of the ACA. In the state of Pennsylvania, I worked with business analysts, project managers, developers, and a host of other political figures within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I got to watch the inner workings as they fought through the requirements gathering and understanding the systems that were at stake with both the federal government and the marketplace and how the state would implement it. And I watched and I thought to myself, my God, and this is going back a ways, I thought to myself, wow, wouldn't it be easier just to change the dates of eligibility and call it a day and give everyone Medicare for all? I mean, it just seemed like such a no-brainer. It wasn't funny. And here we are now, flash forward, and we've got Medicare for all in the spotlight. People are talking about it. But before we've even had a legitimate debate, people are already starting to water down what that means. They're already talking about affordable health care again. Affordable to who? Is it another means test? Are you once again going the neoliberal route of markets? Do you love markets? Do you like accentuating markets? Do you find it pleasurable to put people into markets as opposed to rights? Look, you can gamble with my TV sets. Hell, you can even gamble with my smartphones. But don't gamble with my liver. Don't gamble with my lungs. Don't gamble with my child's health. And definitely don't gamble with me late in life when I make a decision where maybe I want to try to live a little bit longer. Maybe I want to die when I want to die. Stop taking away the ability to have health care, which is one of the base level Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Safety, health. When you think about it and you see people out there who are already completely taking care of themselves, they've got more money than you could ever imagine. They're able to eat at 5-star restaurants constantly. They're back and forth. They're all in the high-level places where people only look through the window to watch what the other people look like when they eat. These folks out there are sitting there gambling with your life. They're trying to dumb it down and tell you to be pragmatic. And I'm here to tell you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, most of us can't be pragmatic with our own health. We just end up skipping health. We just end up skipping going to the doctor. We just end up skipping taking care of it. And then we die. That's right, we die. It's what we do. Because we can't afford the bill. So we feel like it's our right to gamble with our lives, and then we've got some tremendously awful people that will tell people they've made bad choices. I mean, the people that say that really have forsaken their value to society by saying that. You have no idea the level and depth of the pain and suffering out there if you think people are making bad choices. If that's what your take on this is, that you just think people are making bad choices, you've really got it wrong. You've really completely gotten it wrong. So what I did was I started thinking to myself, and this list is not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't add war in there, or anti-war, I should say. I didn't add anything about reducing the military budget, because that's an arbitrary thing that's like a feel-good thing as opposed to really understanding what you're doing. But I did take some pretty hard stances on some ideas, and I'm going to bring them up here. This is a post from Facebook, and I wrote it as I sat there and I thought to myself how fucking sick I am of being told that I'm not being a good team player, that I'm just not taking it on the chin, that I'm somehow or another being a fringe lefty, which I say, fuck you, I will flat out throat punch you if you say something stupid like that again. It's got nothing to do with being a fringe lefty. It's got to do, since when does wanting to survive equal fringe lefty? You would have to be a waste of a sperm and an egg to call someone a fringe lefty for wanting to survive. So I started at the top. I'm like, if you're ready to water down health care, as only a privileged fuck would do, I can't support you. If you're ready to water down free college for all, you can't represent me. If you are ready to only forgive some student debt, but not all student debt, you can't represent me. If you do not stand firmly for a Green New Deal, you can't represent me, period. If you are a party insider who supports the establishment rules, leaders, and ignore the voice of the people, you cannot represent me. If you do not have an MMT economist advising you, you absolutely cannot represent me. If you love markets, you can't represent me. If you take corporate money and stand up to applaud Donald Trump for standing against socialism, you cannot represent me. If you claim to be progressive but didn't fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline, you cannot represent me. If you believe in means testing benefits and do not make things like education and health care a right, you cannot represent me. And if you understand what I'm saying, let me know if you agree. So I'm going to keep this up here for those of you who want to read it. And I'm going to talk to you about something. A right cannot be a right if it's means tested. If only certain people get it with $100,000 or less income or whatever, that's not a right. In fact, that's just delaying things for the capitalist who still wants to make money on your health, on making sure that you have an education. Explain to me why in this age, in 2019, where you have realized beyond the shadow of a doubt, and if you haven't, shame on you, that federal taxes do not fund federal spending, that our nation is the creator of the U.S. dollar, and that it can spend money into existence for everything as it already does with the military and every other thing. It's not talking about doing something different than it does. It's talking about doing exactly what it does, except instead of doing it on the war machine, doing it on the people, doing it for the people, doing the will of the people. If you don't get this by now, it's intentional that you don't get that. You have chosen not to get that. You've chosen not to understand that a nation creates pieces of paper. And those pieces of paper are used to pay taxes and buy things, and that it creates the digits and the ones that are in your bank account and the ones that the government spends from thin frickin' air. And if you're still holding on for dear life to the idea that taxes fund the military and stuff like that, think again. Donald Trump was able to get a $750 billion budget for the military while simultaneously cutting taxes. So it's important that you never say taxpayer dollar again, ever. It's important that you never say your taxes are going to pay for these things, because they absolutely do not. Your taxes are flushed down the toilet. They're deleted. They're drained out of the system, because the system is a cycle. It's a circuit. Government spends it into the economy. Government taxes it out of the economy. That's why we don't just keep printing money like some people say. The money is constantly being deleted while it's constantly being spent. The circuit. If you don't get that by now, that's on you. You have made the decision not to get that. That's your choice not to understand how the government works since 1971, when we went to a fiat currency. And it's been going that way actually way before that. Free-floating fiat currency, I should say. Detached from the Bretton Woods Accord, detached from any gold standard or commodity standard of any variety. So why do these people keep coming back with means-tested programs? Why does the entire slate of Democrats, minus Bernie Sanders, come up with a bunch of bozo-level means-tested services? I want a job guarantee in there now, because you know what? I haven't seen the kind of regulation on the banks that I would have expected after the great financial crisis. We are going to be the shock absorber for the economy once again. If we get chewed up, we'll become Soylent Green, thrown in the back of the truck and ground up into some sort of fluid for the poors to drink. That's where this shit's going. Because we can't get our own people out of their own way to fight for citizens' benefits. No, they want to balkanize shit. They want to water it down. Vote blue no matter who. Forget policy. If you talk about policy somehow or another, you're eating your own. Fuck you. My own do not sit there and do neoliberal policies. That's not my own. My own don't do that. My own are not worthless like that. So that's not my own. So I'm not eating my own when I point out that they're neoliberals. I'm not eating my own when I point out that they're not fighting for health care as a right. I'm not eating my own when I say that if it isn't student debt for all, relief for all, then it's not student debt relief. You're freaking neoliberaling it up, pandering to a certain crowd, and fuck you for doing that. Every child should be given a right to a free college, because education should be a right in this country. It's an investment in our longevity. It's an investment in our ability to survive shocks and awes to the economy, and so that we can solve the big problems that face our nation. Why the hell wouldn't we provide free college to all? Why would we sit there and play games? Oh, well, families that make $100,000, those people, they don't get $1,001, whatever. Fuck you. Right in the ear hole. We're not even through the first debate yet. I want you to understand this. We haven't had the first presidential debate yet. Democratic primary debate yet. Not one. And people are already preemptively surrendering the high ground for the policy positions we need to fight tooth and nail for. They're already spreading their legs to the highest bidder, whoever will let them in the door. Well, I got to prepare so that nobody says that I was a Bernie or Buster. God, can you imagine somebody standing on principle? Fuck that shit, man. Fucking bullshit. I want you to think about this when your heart gives out on you and you look at your deductible and you look at your bank account and you wonder, me and the wife have both got heart problems. Who's going to die? Because we can only afford one of us to get fixed. Fuck this stuff, man. This is disgusting. Every one of these Democratic candidates, other than Bernie Sanders, and when I say everyone, even the ones you love, are pushing neoliberal economic bullshit. Every fucking one of them. We are not talking about, he's bashing blues. Oh my God. And no, I am not fucking Russian, you loser. And I'm not from Macedonia, you waste of skin. I'm a human being with a family. And I want to survive. And I want them to survive and thrive too. And I want you, even though I can't stand you for being a neoliberal waste, to survive. If we don't make these things as a right, the demonization will get insane. You must just really want to keep immigrants constantly running from ICE by not making citizens benefits covering all. You must just love the thought of it. I think to myself, what kind of depraved soul would go that route? Why in the world wouldn't we fight up to the bitter end for healthcare as a right, for education as a right, for a Green New Deal as a mandate, for a job guarantee as a right? Every man, woman, and child that wants a job could have a job paid for by the federal fucking government. At what point in time does your spine stiffen and you say, I don't want to have to pick and choose how many die? Can you imagine? This is one of the exercises I think should have to happen. I think this should have to happen. I think every sellout, every pile of dung that shortchanges the process and already starts trying to fight for vote blue no matter who, no matter how shitty the policies are, I think they should personally have to see the people that die from these policies. I think they should personally have to watch it with their arms tied behind their back and their kids looking them in the eye and watch those people die. I think they should have to see the results of their decision making. I think they should be forced to stare death in the eye and understand that their decision wasn't just some difference of opinion. It was a death sentence for someone. And I think they deserve to see it live. And I think they deserve to know that it's their fault. Is that harsh? It depends. Whose side are you on? Are you on the person who's condemning people to die? Or are you fighting to keep people alive? If you're fighting to keep people alive, and you still think that's harsh, well, we got a difference of opinion now, don't we? But I can certainly understand if you're more about the feels for the people condemning people to die. I see so many people preemptively surrendering. They haven't taken 5 seconds to learn what the policies are, to understand what the debate's all about. And they're just going to vote blue no matter who. We got a primary debate coming up here shortly. And people are like, I just can't wait to hear what so-and-so says. I'm like, I don't care what they say. What is their policy? I mean, think about this. What is their policy? What is it about their policy that makes you say, that's the one that I want to work with? Folks, the cost of going for neoliberal, balkanized, means-tested bullshit is that many people get left out. and many people die. We should be way beyond that. That should be like old days. That should be horse and buggy. We should be looking for Jetsons now. We should be thinking about how this works for all of us. And until we start doing that, you can count on being sold out down the river by Vote Blue no matter whose that don't care at all how many die from their selling out preemptively before the debate even happens. Think about that. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives, and that's all I think about. Have a good night, everybody.